We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Hello!
Welcome.
This is Nerd Spastics. This is our first episode, finally. And as you're probably listening, you know who we are slightly. I'm Sean.
Tristan.
And if you're new, that's cool too. Welcome. And for a brief summary of what we'll probably be doing on here is just talking about a little bit of everything. Our first topic of the day, to be honest, is not really a topic because this weekend we went to Pax East.
Pax East.
It was a good time. I don't know if most of you know what Pax East is. I'd hope you would if you'd be listening to this. That'd be kind of sad if you didn't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What was the show that was on that Pax East took the place of? Because there was another show.
Was there another show? I didn't even think.
Yeah, because they only started in 2010 here.
I know that PAX started with PAX Prime, but I
Yeah.
don't think. I think it started around here around 2004 or no 8 or 4 or 8 something like that. I know
8
it's like
was the first year of Pax East?
8 because I think this was the 5th year anniversary.
Okay.
So yeah, PAX East, big demos. Halo 5.
Overwatch.
That was a big show there.
Big section of Heroes of the Storm at the Twitch booth.
Yeah, very interesting that was at Twitch and not at Blizzard. But I guess since Blizzard had Heroes of the Storm, they had enough with their hands full with that.
Yeah, there were some interesting kind of cross sections because there was also, I believe it was the MSI booth had Hearthstone running, and so a bunch of kind of Blizzard everywhere, basically, though.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that Intel had Blizzard as well, and a couple other things, or not Blizzard, Hearthstone, and it just seemed like Blizzard had taken over this convention.
Yeah, Blizzard was really the dominant force at this convention, and it kind of makes sense because they were really the only one who made major announcements at this convention.
I mean, there was Final Fantasy. That was, that was a big thing there as well.
Yeah, but there weren't a whole lot of press conferences, and it didn't really help that the Game Developers Conference was on the Monday before PAX East, so a lot of announcements that did occur happened there, including new Rock Band.
Yeah, that's true. And you also have, E3, which is coming up pretty soon. So, I mean,
in June, I believe.
Yeah, so you have stuff like that where not going to think. I think Blizzard has made a point of announcing things at PAX East, though. So, and the announcements we did have from PAX East, obviously, is new Hearthstone material.
New Hearthstone,
Blackrock Mountain expansion, which will be another dungeon, which would be cool from the first one.
Yeah, another single-player expansion to the game to follow up to Naxxramas.
Yep, it'll be March 19th for the pre-order, and I guess you get an exclusive card back for the pre-order if you don't use gold, so they kind of want your money on that one.
I'll just go with the gold.
Well, card backs are card backs, I guess.
They're card backs, but yeah, they're interesting because typically when they do an announcement, it's several years before something comes out. So, thus with Overwatch, that was announced at BlizzCon earlier this year, and then that's going into closed beta in the fall. Closed beta or closed alpha, one of those.
Yeah, no, I want to say it's probably closed beta by now. I mean, they had a playable demo at PAX.
Yeah, from what I've heard from people who have played it, they really liked it. They almost likened it to Team Fortress 2, but on steroids. And I was a big Team Fortress 2 fan back in the day when that came out.
Can Team Fortress be Team Fortress and be on steroids any more bigger? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, Team Fortress hasn't really evolved in the last several years. It's still running. It's still popular, but I think kind of Blizzard saw an opening in the market there and just ran with it.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, and it's weird because you've never seen them do a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was the speculation of Ghost for a while, but, I mean...
Yeah, which was disappointing when that was canceled. And
yeah, it did seem...
The recent cancellation of Titan.
Titan, yeah. I think that's why, you look at Titan being canceled, and then all of a sudden you hear Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, which was coming for a while, but it's like that they kind of push that in to kind of, take the place of what Titan where it was, and,
Yeah, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what it turns out to be in its final product, and if Heroes of the Storm follows the formula of other MOBAs, that'll be free to play with premium items you can buy, kind of like they're doing with Hearthstone 2, which was the first example of that model for Blizzard. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Overwatch. I'm assuming it'll be a full-priced game.
Yeah,
but
I
after
don't
that,
think
they'll
it's
do
gonna be.
updates and whatnot, new maps to keep it going, kind of like what they've done with Diablo 3.
I feel like Heroes of the Storm is like their other kind of, free. Let's do free to play. However, the buy-in for the beta is definitely unique, and I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems like a steep price to play to get into the beta. You do get 3 characters and a bunch of in-game gold. So the monetary value of that for what you would pay for that if you're already in the game, I'm not sure how that equates, but it seems like a steep stepping stone if someone wants to just kind of try it out for something that will eventually be free.
The other thing that was pretty big, wargaming.net.
Yeah, they had a very large booth right between 2 stairwells. So they're kind of perfectly positioned to catch people as they're coming in and out of the different areas.
Yeah, I think I was just more surprised that they had a bigger booth than, say, like Nintendo or Microsoft and stuff like that. It was kind of like, of all things, to have such a big booth and a very, expansive booth with, a lot of, broken buildings, and, it was very well done. It was kind of surprising that, of all things, that they were the ones who went all out.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with any of their properties. I've never played their World of Tanks, or they also have, I think, World of Warships and whatnot.
Yeah.
They did recently announce that World of Tanks will be coming as free-to-play to Xbox One, so that might have been partly for the big push in the booth to promote that.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the free-to-play games are, the ones that are making big strides right now just because, they're free-to-play, quotation marks, so.
Yeah, that specific model free-to-play, though, I'm not a big fan of because you kind of hit a wall if you come up against another player who has a bigger, better tank that they're able to pay for versus you if
Exactly.
you're kind of more starting out.
Well, it's the same thing with Hearthstone. You pay all this money, I got the better cards because I put all this money into, and then if you don't put the money into, you're kind of stuck on the casual ranks for a while, which is fun in its own, but still,
But yeah, but frustrating if you're trying to move up, if you could just kind of keep coming up against all these people who have these higher level cards that they got because they're able to just buy. It's different, though, from the strategy for the MOBA space, which I believe will also include Heroes of the Storm, but also League of Legends and Dota, because those are free to play and you can buy items, but they don't really change the game. It's costumes and such like that. And I believe that's going to be one of the pillars because one of the other big games there that had a lot of very large lines was Fable Legends, which recently announced that they will be free to play. And they announced that the full game will be available. You're not going to be kind of cordoned off if you go free to play. You can't get to certain levels or whatnot.
Yeah, that's a big thing if that's,
Yeah, so that was a kind of a surprise announcement that was made before Pax East that would go free to play because that's a major title coming to Xbox One and PC because that's going to be the first cross-platform game where it doesn't matter if you're on Windows 10 or Xbox One, you'll be able to play against other people.
Yeah, that's actually a big deal. I mean, they've been so, exclusive with each other for which console you get. Now, if you can cross over, that's going to make a huge stride in, which console you get because it won't matter because you can still play with everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's a smart move if they want to try to build up a giant community like that because for something like that, that's all multiplayer. If you don't have a giant community playing, if it's a small group, kind of what Evolve is running into, where they're a $60 game for a multiplayer only. So, but if you can go free to play and build a giant community around it and then make some money on the side doing whatnot, it also helps that Microsoft is part of the developer on that, so they have money to burn for something like that. They don't need to make money on it.
Oh, they have tons of money to burn. Are you kidding me? I think that the other thing that was really cool about PAX was the gaming area.
The board gaming area. Yeah, it was interesting because they kind of divided the convention center in half. There was a big empty space in the middle, and one side was all video games, and one side was all tabletop, your Magic, your board games, and whatnot. So, and while the video game section shut down at 6, the board games went till midnight.
Yeah, and it was very cool that that you were allowed to rent the games, and you could actually try these games before you actually even thought about buying them. So it made it cool, the fact that you can try any game you want. I think Pairs was a game we played that was actually really quite fun. It was a Kickstarter game. And, I mean, just in general, you can try a game, and then if you really like it, you can just go buy it, and they're all right there open to midnight as well.
Yeah, there were a lot of Kickstarter games there that started, and it's a nice setup to be able to just kind of go rent a game, try it out, but then there's booths right there that you can buy if you decide you like it and whatnot. So it's a great way to kind of try out a lot of these designer board games that are typically fairly expensive, $40 to $50.
Yeah, it's not like your standard Monopoly Clue games. I mean.
Yeah, it's not something that, but there were a lot of smaller games, so there were a couple card games you could pick up for $10 or so.
Yeah, it was Red 7.
Red 7 was one that I picked up. It was a lot of fun that one of my friends had bought there on a whim and played a bunch of rounds. It was a good time. So, yeah, definitely a good, easy way to discover a lot of new board games if you're into the board gaming space. And definitely kind of the more exciting area, I thought, especially if you want to be able to play a lot of stuff. On the video game side, there are hour-long waits for a lot of things. So
More so, yeah.
Yeah, except for some of the indie games. Those were kind of easier to jump in and play and try out a bunch of things.
Yeah, upstairs too. Definitely the didn't get to try it myself, but the you can rent any video game you want for the new consoles and try those. That was pretty awesome too. The fact that you can just go up and try anything. It's basically like a try, do what you want, kind of thing. It's a pretty cool idea actually.
Yeah, definitely a nice kind of way if you haven't bought into one of the new console generations yet. If you want to sample something on Xbox One or PS4, kind of see what you like, actually use the controllers for an extended period of time, see what fits your hands best before you actually take the plunge.
Yeah. So let's move topics now. This week in TV, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Very good episode this week.
Very good episode this week. Whoever watches Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm sure you're either caught up or you should be caught up.
Yeah, we'll try to keep the spoiler free
as much as possible. But to be honest, if you haven't watched from December on, you're kind of out of luck. You better just stop listening. Well, don't do that, but just cover your ears or something. Now the big thing with Avengers, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is because of Avengers, which they keep talking how it's going to lead into it, and it seems like more and more as we get into towards the end of the season, we're seeing that.
Well, I thought the more interesting thing with this single episode, they tied in the worlds of Guardians and then the worlds of Thor in just one movie by having the Kree in there and Lady Sif.
Yeah, that was an interesting development there, especially with the Kree was how Agent Coulson was come back and all this other stuff.
Yeah, but before that, we didn't really know that it was a Kree until Guardians, basically, because it was just kind of this mysterious blue alien thing who had been there. So we hadn't really seen mention of the Kree before Guardians.
In the movie universe, yes, that's correct. I've read the comics, so I knew when they talked about it, and shown it was a Kree, that blue alien, that's a Kree. If Coulson will appear in the new Avengers, I mean, I know that's been a topic of debate because they keep saying how they don't want the Avengers involved with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be on the show because they can't know Coulson's alive. But if that end up happening in the second one, will that change?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they tie in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to Age of Ultron, because last year with Captain America, the events of Captain America heavily influenced what happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the movie still stood on their own, so it'll be interesting to see if on the movie side, if you might be a little lost if you haven't been following the show, if they'll have some major plot development in the show that leads into the movie, or if they'll have some events that tie into it, but they'll still kind of try to keep the movies separate. So that way, if you're not watching the show, you're not really losing out on any plot points.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think watching the show with the movies almost gives you a more in-depth experience. I mean, I don't think you're going to lose anything if you don't watch both or don't do both, but you definitely get more in-depth of what's going on and have a better understanding of the movie if you watch the show. Especially with Winter Soldier, with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that definitely synced up perfectly. And I know there was a lot of slack actually for it, but I felt that it was a great way to go, especially for the show.
Yeah, right after Winter Soldier came out, that's when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really started to take off, because previous to that, it was more of a Monster of the Week type of show and whatnot. They were building characters. But after that, they really started to get into some in-depth plot. And that's really the strength that Marvel has right now versus DC, who announced that because they have an excellent run going between The Flash and Arrow. They have some good television production going on right now, but those will not tie in any way to the film universe, which I think is a big loss, because that's kind of a big strength of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is when you see those characters you've seen in the films and whatnot, Lady Sith, come in. That's a big boost to tie those worlds together.
No, I agree. And the fact you have stuff like Gotham is really taking off, or, Flash and stuff like that. But then you have these characters, and you're just going to build a Justice League movie without any background from these characters. And you have these characters to build a background from. I mean, you're really not taking advantage of what you have.
Yeah, it's going to be a big loss to try to introduce all those characters at once in one film, versus if you have all of this plot, and also if you have all these fans who have developed an attachment to these actors and these characters, then all of a sudden you're going to introduce someone else in the role. So it's like, all right, are you going to have two different Flashes going on at the same time, one in the cinematic universe, one in the TV universe? How is that going to gel up if you're a fan who is a fan of one and you go to the other and you see a completely different actor?
Yeah,
it doesn't have any relation to the other storyline.
I mean, it's almost like they're creating the alternate universes of DC, which they have as Marvel as well. But, I mean, I just don't think that's a great way to go when you don't have a credible backstory for these films as it is, but you do have it with the TV series, and why not use it?
Yeah, that's kind of the genius thing that Marvel has been doing, is that everything is related. So even something like Guardians, had their own storyline. They weren't interact with anyone else from any other films, but you still have the Kree coming into S.H.I.E.L.D. and whatnot. They're still all in the same universe, even if they don't interact with each other.
Yeah, and speaking of which, well, not DC, but the Avengers trailer actually came out, the third one, this week. And
yeah, we finally got kind of a long look at the plot and some character action, and an actually good look at it rather than a teaser trailer.
So why don't we take a look at that right now?
I was designed to save the world.
Okay, right there, like they just showed the image of Scarlet Witch and
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver, thank you. Like the fact that was a big topic if you remember when X-Men Days of Future Past came out, because Quicksilver is in X-Men Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're both mutants, but in order for them to be in this, they can't make any mention of the fact that they're mutants or that Magneto is their father. So it's
spoiler alert.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, oh, here are these two other characters that have the same names, but...
Yeah, I did think that was a little weird. And, I mean, I felt like if they did that, like, it would have been cool if they could at least cooperate to use the same actor. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're not using the same actor, it just kind of... I mean, you're doing exactly what we just talked about DC doing.
Yeah.
And that's the
on
one
a smaller
thing.
scale, but yeah,
yeah, very smaller scale. But, I mean, it's enough to, like, kind of, you're kind of pissing people off.
People will look to the sky and see hope.
And interesting, they're doing a switch that Tony created Ultron as opposed to Ant-Man.
Yeah, that's a big switch, especially with Ant-Man coming out this summer.
Yeah.
But I guess since this was already in the works and like they wanted to do this first, I mean, I guess I can see that. But Ant-Man did kind of invent Ultron. I mean, I really hope, if anything, they allude to that he helped, because they are doing the second Ant-Man as the main character. So I really hope that they have it so that at least, he helped. Like, he was my partner.
Yeah, like, it'll be interesting to see if they make mention of him or if he'll have a cameo in here to kind of lead up to the Ant-Man movie, or how they'll tie those together. Because they have to tie them together in some way, even if it's just a bit after the credits.
Yeah, I would like to at least see the first Ant-Man helping Tony Stark, like originally, or somewhere like from a past clip or a flashback,
or even helping Stark's father.
Yeah, Howard Stark. Yeah, it would be nice to see even something like that.
So that would be an interesting kind of crossover, and then that would be also interesting if they do a second season of Agent Carter. If you had the original Ant-Man creator in there as well with Howard.
Yeah, no, it would definitely would be. I know that Agent Carter for Iron Man 2, at least with that person. That was, you know, a big part that had him in it. So
Them first. There's only one path to peace. Their extinction.
I tried to create a suit of armor around the world, but I created something terrible. Artificial intelligence. It's called the Ultron program.
I'm sick of watching people pay for our mistakes.
Isn't why we fight so we can end the fight and go home?
see right there, they're trying to get into this whole getting ready for Civil War. It definitely seems like that way. Like Avengers 2 is a build-up for Civil War almost.
Yeah, it's also kind of interesting is kind of the creation of the Ultron program was the result of the first Avengers movie with the Earth getting invaded. So this is kind of his reaction to the Earth getting invaded. And the first one is to kind of create a shield around the Earth.
Yeah, and it ends up they're causing the problem this time. And I think that is definitely a big lead-in for Civil War.
Yeah, because you can definitely see that being the motivating factor for the legislation being drafted for the Hero Registration Act.
Definitely.
Well, you amazingly failed.
Here we all are, with nothing but our wit and our will to save the world. So stand and fight.
No way we all get through this.
I got no plans tomorrow night.
I'm always picking up after you boys.
We can tear them apart.
See, and the point right there, which is it seems like they're trying to hint that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver is actually working with Ultron, which makes sense because if I think they were with Hydra and Cages originally at the end of, I want to say, was it Winter Soldier, right? No? Which one was it? Winter
No,
Soldier.
not at the end of Winter Soldier. At the end of...
No, I want to say it was Winter Soldier. Okay. Yeah, it was Winter Soldier.
Yeah, she had them in cages.
Yeah, so it's definitely showing that they start off, which is true with either of them. They do start off on the villain side of things because, well, spoiler, Magneto's their father.
Mm-hmm.
So to have them start on the villain side definitely makes sense of anything, to be honest. I mean, if you're going to do anything, I guess that is one thing you hit on.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they do the character introduction because this is the first time we really get to meet them in this role.
From the inside.
That's the best you can do! You had to ask.
See, that's another big point is the Vision. We haven't seen the Vision from here since right now. I mean, they haven't even really shown a good image of him.
Yeah, so that's kind of our first look of what the Vision will be like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Which I think, hopefully he'll play a bigger part in future stuff as well. But, I mean, we're going to have to see from here. But I'm actually more excited for Avengers than I originally was. Not that I wasn't excited, but...
Yeah, no, this trailer definitely makes the film look extremely epic, so it should be exciting to see. Do you think they'll end up killing off any major characters in this film?
Well, I mean, they didn't really kill off any major characters in the last film. They tried to say they did, but then they brought back Coulson anyway, so... I don't see it happening. I mean, just like... Yeah, I mean... Because in the long run of things, Captain America is supposed to die in Civil War if you read the comics. And whether they follow that along or not, we'll have to see. But it seems like with his contracts coming up, he probably will. I mean, Chris Evans has made it publicly known that he doesn't want to act anymore.
Yeah, so I think most likely they will end up following the comics in that manner, which I'm really excited for, the fact that they are willing to kind of take that risk and kill him off.
Now here's my question for you. Are you going to go to the 11 movie marathon that AMC seems to be running now?
I think I will be skipping the 11 movie marathon, the 27 hours.
27 hours of Marvel films. Now, I know there are a lot of die-hard fans out there, but I just don't see somebody staying out from 6 p.m. until 10 or 11 p.m. the following day.
Yeah, first of all, it's not physically possible, yes. But also, I really am curious what they end up pricing that at. What is 50 or 11 movies worth seeing in the theater? You know,
I mean,
is that $50? Is that more?
I mean, they have to understand that not many people are going to stay for the Captain America at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the other thing. Can you come and go throughout the 27 hours as you please?
I mean, I'm gonna believe that that's something they will do. Also, they're going to be paying employees to stay there 24 hours during this event, even if nobody's there, in case they come to watch it at 4 a.m., I guess. 'Cause they can't really lock the doors, being they paid.
So, yeah, there'll be people who go there. There'll probably be a few people who stay throughout the whole thing, but I think it's more of a publicity stunt than anything else. And, well, kudos to them because everyone is talking about it.
That is true. We are talking about it right now.
Yeah, and also it would be tempting to kind of get to see, the first Iron Man, some of those older films in the theater again that have been out of the theater for almost 10 years.
Yeah, but I don't want to go at 6 a.m. to watch the original Avengers. I'm sorry. I mean, I could. If anything, I'm going to say I'm going to see people coming in at 9 a.m. for Iron Man 3 through the end of Avengers 2.
Yeah,
I could see people doing that, but I don't see people coming through for the first Iron Man all the way to the second Avengers.
Definitely not.
By the time you get there, you're going to be asleep in your seat.
Yeah, I feel like people will either do kind of the first half or the second half. Kind of see kind of the earlier stuff, maybe newer fans who didn't get to see these movies in the theater.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you'll have one creepy guy living in his mom's basement who's probably listening to us right now. But you're awesome because you're listening to us. The next thing, being we're into movies, I guess, at this point, Ghostbusters. So.
It's back.
It's back.
Times 2.
Times, I don't know how many now. Apparently they're not afraid of any ghosts because they're making another 4 Ghostbusters on top of what they already have. So we already had a female-driven cast, which some people liked, some people didn't like. I was neutral on the subject. I don't. The only reason I think I didn't like it was more because of Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. Those are the people you think of when you think of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, just the fact that we're talking about new Ghostbusters is really exciting because I know when the video game came out, the original cast came back and did the voices for that and said this is as close as we're going to get to doing a Ghostbusters 3.
Yes, and the video game was amazing. The Ghostbusters video game is amazing. Now, apparently, because of this outrage, a little bit of, they are now making a male-driven Ghostbusters with Dan Aykroyd coming back and Irvin Reitman as the director.
Well, you got to think this was probably in the works long before now because they're not going to all of a sudden just throw this together because of the female-driven cast. So this has to be something that they've been in works for a decade.
Yeah, the talk is that they're going to cross over. And at some point, one is a prequel. I'm guessing the male-driven cast is the prequel. That's my only guess because with Dan Aykroyd.
A prequel to the new films? So a sequel to the original films.
A sequel to the original films, a prequel to the new films, the way Hollywood likes to fuck up everything. But
yes, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do for a timeline type of a thing and which one will come out first. If it'll be the female-driven cast that comes out first, or
it seems like that's the way it's going to go. It's going to go that the female-driven cast will come up first, and then you will get a prequel/sequel to either one after that, and then at some point there will be a crossover between the two. So, I mean, I really don't know how I feel about it at this point. It seems like a lot of Ghostbusters shoved at you at once.
Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see what their timeline is, if they're going to really space these out, do some within a year have one movie come out in the summer, one movie come out in the fall. So it's hard to say. There's not a whole lot of details at this point. So this is still a few years away.
It's very early.
Yeah.
Very early. Another thing that's very early that was this week was the Paris Fashion Show.
Yes.
Which apparently we got a Ben Stiller on stage, and we are promoting Zoolander 2.
And Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson as well, yes.
So both in character and in costume at the Paris Fashion Show, which was kind of a fantastic way to kick off the publicity for their next movie.
Yeah, if you need a way to push your film, that is definitely the way you could have done it. It was a popular film, not hugely popular, but it was pretty popular. And the fact that they're getting a sequel and this is the way they come out and do it, that was pretty phenomenal.
And also, the original movie came out at least 10 years ago. I can't remember what year it actually came out.
I want to say it was like 2001 or 2, but I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Yeah, it was 2001. So I mean, it's been.
So by the time it comes out, it'll be 15 years.
15 years. See, I say not long ago. Now I feel old. But yeah, 15 years. I mean, that's a while for a sequel to come out. But obviously, we've seen longer. But I mean, like we just talked about Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how it does. I mean, this is very early. The fact they just even announced it.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that they have both Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson back, the two major characters and whatnot. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if this ends up being a hit or kind of a flop like Anchorman 2. So in one way, it's encouraging that it's been so long that it wasn't something that was just thrown out because the first Zoolander was a hit. So I don't know. I'd be excited to see those characters again because they were entertaining.
Yeah, and we really haven't seen a lot of Ben Stiller recently, to be honest, besides the Night at the Museum sequels, which, I mean, finally we had a last one, so that's probably a good thing. Another movie news that came out is Toy Story 4. That was a little surprising, being they said they weren't making Toy Story 4.
Yeah, and very unexpected because they did wrap up the story very nicely at the end of Toy Story 3. It was a very fitting send-off and whatnot.
And that's the point of it. I guess it's not a sequel to 3. It's its own movie, which is a romantic comedy. And that's an interesting way to put it. I mean, when I think of Toy Story, I don't think of romantic comedy.
Yeah, I mean, you have romantic comedy between the toy characters themselves and whatnot, but not between really the human actors. So
exactly. I mean,
it's like I love the Toy Story universe, but I thought they wrapped it up nicely. They kind of put it. I was skeptical when I originally heard they were doing a third one, but saw it in the theater. It was fantastic.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah, Pixar makes amazing movies. So basically, anything Pixar makes, I'll go see, but I'm very skeptical about this. Same thing with the sequel to Cars when they did that.
That was. Now, on that topic, do you think this is a money grab? Do you think they're just using the name to grab some more money?
I don't think so, because Disney owns Pixar again, so they don't need the money. So, and basically they've put out hit after hit after hit. They haven't put out a movie that hasn't made them money. So, also I'm curious if it'll be the original director coming back for this, because it was the original director who came back to do the third one.
Yeah. The other thing with Pixar is they actually just released a new trailer for Inside Out.
Yes.
Which is their new film. I'm a little more accepting of this one. It's an original idea, which Pixar, to be honest, hasn't had in a while.
No, I mean, probably the last thing was Up.
Up? Was it Up before? Yeah, Up. Yeah, probably Up, and that was a while ago.
Yeah, that came out several years ago. Let's see, I'm trying to think what their timeline has been for films.
2009, so it's been almost 5 years, 6 years since
because they did Up, they did Toy Story 3 after that.
And that's not an original. I mean, you got to think about, it seems recently they've just been doing a lot of sequels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the story of Hollywood.
In general. Which you got, Jurassic World and
a
couple other things coming out this summer that's pretty much all sequel-based.
Mm-hmm. Or reboots or...
Reboots. Well, sequel/reboots. They can't make up their mind now. It's either or.
Yeah. And, of course, Star Wars.
Star Wars is going to be... I think that's going to be big. I don't think. I know.
It'll definitely be big no matter what. Whether or not it's good is the other question. Because Phantom Menace still made a ton of money. It wasn't very good.
Yes, and I remember seeing Phantom Menace in the theaters as a child in middle school. I was a 7th grader, all excited to see Star Wars, watching it on the big screen with my parents, and then all of a sudden I'm watching going, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, and I still saw all 3 in the theaters. They weren't...
So did I. Yeah, I mean...
But so same thing will happen to us. People will still see them in the theaters just because it's Star Wars. But
I know I will. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but I guess they just recently announced that, because there's going to be a 30-year gap in the time of the movies, that they're going to be releasing books based on what happened in that 30-year. And I think that's interesting because they've already said that all the books written before this point are now being washed away. Basically, they didn't happen.
Yeah, so it's kind of strange what Disney is doing with the canon, deciding that this is no longer part of the official canon. This is anything after this point. So it's a weird switch that everything that had been previous part of the storyline in the world is now null and void.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're trying to make their own, history for Star Wars now. I mean, you have all these other books and comics and everything, and they're good. I mean, there's a lot of good storylines. There's the whole story of, Han and Leia's children and Anakin Solo, who becomes, a dark side and stuff like that, or Chewbacca's death. There's all these interesting stories and all these stuff that happened people knew, but now that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and I think Disney probably felt that it was necessary just because Star Wars has branched out in so many different directions, so many different people have licensed it between games and books and whatnot, that they kind of needed to put a cap on it, and because they obviously have a long-term plan for this, because they're going to make several movies of this. They're going to reboot a lot of things.
Theme park, too. They're making a theme park just dedicated to Star Wars and part of their Hollywood studios now. It's just,
So this is going to be a long-term investment for Disney, kind of like how Marvel has been. And so they're going to have a long-term plan for it. So they need to kind of create their own canon from here on out, and as opposed to everything that's been made in the last several decades since they've taken control of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to do big at the box office. No matter what, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, but I mean, considering what he did with the reboot of Star Trek, it makes me excited for what he'll do for the reboot of Star Wars, but almost kind of makes you worry that it's going to have too similar of a feel.
Yeah, and I am worried about that. I really hope it doesn't have the same kind of feel that Star Trek has, because, I mean, that's two franchises that's been at odds for years, and you don't want to, mix and match Star Wars and Star Trek kind of similarity, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they've always had a very different vibe between the two, but with the reboot with Star Trek, they definitely did make the film much more or action-packed, kind of like of a Star Wars movie. So I'll be curious to see what he ends up doing with his direction of the film. So
the box office this week, you had Chappie at $13.3 million. If you don't know what Chappie is, it's about a robot. It's like a self-aware robot in somewhat close future.
Yeah, Winona Ryder is in it, so it has some notable actors.
And Focus at $10 million. Very, very low box office numbers.
Yeah, and Will Smith hasn't really done much notable in the last several years.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about Earth 2, but that just failed completely. I mean, I didn't see that. And then
that was a bomb at the box office last summer.
I mean, the fact you have to keep something hidden like that, it's directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan. I mean, So with those low box office numbers, we're going to try a thing where we're going to do guessing what the box office is for the next upcoming week. So, we're looking at the movies for next week. You have Disney's live-action Cinderella, which has been talked about for a little while now, and you have Run All Night, which I believe is the new Liam Neeson movie about his son, probably trying to find him or something in general, because that's Liam Neeson's movies. And It Follows, which is a horror movie, and I'm really surprised because it's gotten a lot of talk.
And it's also surprising that they're releasing a horror movie in March.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've seen it more that horror movies are being released in other parts of more other than Halloween, which is right now, Rotten Tomatoes, It Follows says 95%. I mean,
very surprising.
Very surprising.
So, but then again, horror movies are never usually a big smashing success at the box office. So
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not something like Saw or the other Paranormal Activity crappy movies that they are, even though they are crappy, they make good box office money.
it's a very niche audience you're going after with any horror movie.
Yeah, you're not, especially in a theater, you're not going to get many. So looking at those 3 main releases, which do you think will be number 1?
Well, definitely a toss-up between Cinderella and Run All Night, but 2 kind of very different audiences you're going after right there. Because Cinderella, is that PG, I'm assuming?
I believe Cinderella is PG. It's live action, so my guess would be, yes, PG.
Yeah, so basically you got the kids audience and the adult audience going for it. So my guess is I'll say Run All Night takes the box office, but not by a lot.
Really? See, I'm going to say Cinderella, but by a lot.
Yeah.
Just based on kids and anything with the Disney name, it's gonna do well. I think Cinderella is gonna take this. Now we need, like, obviously we can get suggestions from you guys. You guys can send us your suggestions of what we should do. Whoever loses, I think that's a good way to do it. So I say Cinderella is gonna be the box office. He says Run All Night. Now, you decide if I lose or Tristan loses what we do. You can email us at nerdspastics@gmail.com, and we will take suggestions, and the best one that won't harm us
I'm not
in
eating
any
any
way.
hot sauce.
I don't think that's a harm, but all right. Won't harm us in any way, physically or mentally, I guess. We will take into consideration and do. Also, if you have any suggestions for the show or any comments or anything you want us to talk about, you can email us the same thing. It's nerdspastics@gmail.com. So overall, I think our show is over for today.
That'll do it for this week.
Yeah, you can stay tuned, listen to us next week, hopefully. This will probably be about every week or sometimes about bi-weekly maybe, depending on what's going on and how busy we are.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this will be weekly, so hopefully you will hear us next Friday.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have some good, exciting news in the next coming week for announcements. So we should be starting to get into more movie trailers and whatnot now that the last couple months have really been a lull for good films coming out.
Yes, we will definitely see probably some more summer movies coming out as well. And yeah, so I'm Sean.
Tristan,
And thanks for listening, guys. And this was Nerd Spastics.
catch you next time.